It was a crisp autumn afternoon when a little girl named Emma approached Karoline Leavitt, the congresswoman from New Hampshire, at a community event. The air was filled with the scent of freshly fallen leaves, and the buzz of laughter from families surrounded them. Emma had been watching Karoline from a distance, captivated by her warm smile and the way she carried herself with such confidence. But what caught her eye most of all was the delicate necklace Karoline wore. Emma had always been fascinated by jewelry, especially the ones that seemed to have a story behind them. This necklace, with its intricate design and sparkling gem, seemed to have more meaning than a simple accessory. Emma, a shy 8-year-old with a heart full of curiosity, found herself inching closer to Karoline as the crowd slowly thinned. "Excuse me, ma'am." Emma's voice was soft, but there was an undeniable sparkle of determination in her eyes. Karoline turned and smiled, bending down slightly to meet Emma at eye level. "Hey there, sweetheart. How are you?" Emma smiled shyly, but pointed to the necklace. "I like your necklace. It looks special, is it?" Karoline's eyes softened. She had worn this necklace every day for years, its significance woven deeply into her life. The gem in the center was a sapphire, the stone glimmering in the sunlight. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a piece of her heart, a reminder of love and loss, of strength and perseverance. "It is special," Karoline replied, her voice gentle. She paused, feeling the weight of the memory that came with K. "This necklace was given to me by my grandmother. She was an incredibly strong woman, so brave and kind. She always told me that a necklace like this would remind me of my own strength." Emma's eyes widened as she took a small step closer. "What happened to her? Why did she give it to you?" Karoline hesitated for a moment. The memory of her grandmother's passing still tugged at her heart, but it was a story she had shared with others before. Something about the sincerity in Emma's eyes made her want to share it once again. "She passed away a few years ago," Karoline said, her voice thickening with emotion. "But before she did, she told me to always remember who I was, no matter what happened. To remember that I could handle anything, that I was strong just like she was." Emma's gaze shifted down to the necklace, then back up to Karoline. "Do you miss her?" Karoline's heart clenched and she nodded slowly. "Every day. But I carry her with me. I keep her words close to my heart. And when I wear this necklace, I feel like she's still here, watching over me." Emma thought. For a moment, her small hands clasped in front of her as she considered the weight of what Karoline had said. "I think my mom would say something like that too," she whispered. "She always tells me to be brave even when things are hard." Karoline's heart warmed at Emma's words. She could see so much of herself in this little girl, an innocence, mixed with a quiet strength that would grow over time. She bent down, her voice soft but firm. "Your mom is right. You're brave, even if you don't always feel like it. And just like me, you'll carry that bravery with you wherever you go. You'll be just like your mom, strong and kind." Emma's eyes welled up with tears as she looked at Karoline, feeling a rush of emotions that she couldn't quite explain. It was a simple conversation, but the weight of the connection between them was profound. Here was this woman, so much older, yet so similar to her in the ways that really mattered. They were both daughters, both granddaughters, and both carrying the love and wisdom of those who came before them. Emma wiped her eyes, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to fall. "You really think I can be brave like that?" Emma asked in a voice barely above a whisper. "I know you can," Karoline said, her smile warm but tinged with emotion. "You already are. And your mom, your grandmother, and all the people who love you, they believe in you too. That's why they tell you to be brave." For a long moment, Emma just stood there, absorbing Karoline's words, the weight of them settling into her young heart. There was something about this exchange that had touched her deeply. She had never thought much about bravery before, but now she understood. It wasn't just about doing something big or loud. It was about carrying the love of those who had gone before you, and standing tall in the face of the challenges life brought your way. As the event continued around them, Emma's mother called, her name from a distance signaling that it was time to leave. Emma looked up at Karoline one last time. "Thank you for telling me about your necklace," she said, her voice shaky but sincere. "It's really beautiful." Karoline smiled, her heart full. "You're welcome, sweetie. I'm glad you like it. And remember, just like this necklace, you have strength inside of you that no one can take away. It's always there." As the event began to wind down, Karoline couldn't shake the feeling of the conversation with Emma. The simplicity of their exchange had struck a chord deep within her. It wasn't just the child's curiosity or the shared vulnerability of speaking about love and loss. It was the profound way in which those small moments could create ripples that echoed far beyond the initial interaction. Karoline had always believed in the power of stories, in how sharing her own had helped others feel seen and understood. But Emma had reminded her that sometimes the smallest stories, like the connection between a grandmother and her granddaughter, held the power to shape someone's life in ways you couldn't predict. As she walked away from the gathering, her thoughts lingered on the girl's tear-filled eyes. Karoline had seen that look before, but it had never felt so personal. It was the look of someone discovering something deep within themselves, a new strength they didn't know they had. Emma would carry that conversation with her. She would remember it in moments when life felt too hard, or when she faced challenges that seemed impossible. Karoline knew that without a doubt. Back in her car, driving home through the tree-lined streets of New Hampshire, Karoline reflected on her grandmother once more. It was her grandmother's words that had shaped so much of who Karoline had become. She remembered the quiet evenings spent with her, listening to stories of her youth, of how she had fought for what she believed in, even when the world seemed against her. Those stories were like little seeds planted in Karoline's heart, and, now as a grown woman, they had grown into the courage and resolve she carried every day. She had always believed she was a reflection of her grandmother's strength, but now, after speaking to Emma, she felt like she had passed that strength on in a way she hadn't fully understood until now. Karoline thought about her own mother, too, and how she had raised her with similar values: love, perseverance, kindness, and the importance of family. They were lessons she had tried to live by, and lessons she hoped to pass on to those around her, whether through words or actions. In that moment, Karoline understood the beautiful interconnectedness of it all. The generations before her, the generations she was part of, and the ones that would follow. The passing of wisdom, love, and strength was not just a gift. It was a responsibility, and she could only hope to honor it. The next morning, Karoline received a handwritten letter in the mail. It was from Emma. "Dear Karoline, thank you for talking to me yesterday. I still remember everything you said. I showed my mom the necklace, and she said it was beautiful too. She also said it's very special when someone gives you something that reminds you of their love. I think I understand that now. I hope one day I can be brave like you. You made me feel like I can be, even though I'm still little. I'm going to remember what you said about being strong. I think I'm strong just like my mom and my grandma. Thank you for being so nice to me. Love." Emma Karoline read the letter slowly, letting the words wash over her. A lump formed in her throat as she finished, and her eyes blurred with tears. It wasn't the kind of tear that was born from sadness. It was the kind that came from an overwhelming sense of gratitude and connection. She thought about how, in just a brief exchange, she had unintentionally changed someone's life, and how Emma, with her pure heart, had somehow done the same for her. The beauty of life was in these moments, the small exchanges that meant more than words could ever capture. As Karoline placed the letter down on her desk, she realized that perhaps this was the most important work she would ever do. Not the speeches, not the legislation, but the lives she touched along the way. She had given Emma a piece of her grandmother's wisdom, and in return, Emma had given her a renewed sense of purpose. It wasn't about politics or public service. It was about the people, the connections, and the stories that brought them all together. And as she sat there, thinking about the lives that intertwined with hers, Karoline made a promise to herself. She would continue to live in a way that honored the lessons of the past, but also embraced the promise of the future. of those like Emma, who would carry these lessons forward, like a necklace passed down, from one generation to the next, gleaming with love, strength, and hope. That afternoon, Karoline took out her phone and sent a quick message to her mother. Just wanted to remind you how grateful I am for everything you've taught me. Your strength is my strength, and I'm doing my best to pass it on. A few minutes later, her mother replied, I know you are, Karoline. I see it every day. You're doing great. Keep being the light. Weeks passed, and the memory of that day with Emma lingered in Karoline's heart. She found herself thinking about the little girl often, wondering how she was doing, if the words she had shared had taken root as she hoped. In the quiet moments, Karoline would picture Emma's face, eyes wide with wonder and vulnerability, and she would smile, knowing that perhaps the most meaningful conversations were the ones that didn't require grand speeches or big gestures. Karoline's life, filled with political engagements, meetings, and the fast pace of her work, sometimes felt like it was a world away from the simplicity of a child's curiosity. Yet in the quiet moments when she reflected on her grandmother's wisdom, her mother's lessons, and the bond she shared with Emma, she realized the most important moments were the ones rooted in connection, those fleeting encounters that shaped a life in ways no one could anticipate. One evening, as Karoline was preparing for another event, a message popped up on her phone. It was from Emma's mom, and the subject line made Karoline pause. Thank you. Curious, Karoline opened it. Dear Karoline, the message began. I wanted to take a moment to thank you for your kindness when you spoke with Emma that day. She hasn't stopped talking about the necklace and the things you said. I wasn't sure at first how much of it she really understood, but last night she came to me and said something that struck me deeply. She said that she wasn't afraid anymore, even though sometimes she still got nervous. She said she knew she could be strong, like you and her grandmother. Karoline's heart swelled. She read the message again, her eyes misting over. Emma's words had clearly touched her, and her mother could see it too. The girl's strength had bloomed in the most unexpected way, and Karoline had been a small part of that. I thought you should know how much that moment meant to Emma. She's always been a little shy, and sometimes she doesn't believe in herself. But after that day, it's like she found something inside her, something stronger than she realized. Karoline set the phone down, her chest tight with emotion. It was one of those moments that made all the hard work, all the late nights, and all the challenges worth it. She hadn't set out to change Emma's life. She hadn't planned to make a difference that day. But in the simplest exchange of words, she had. And in doing so, Emma had changed her too. The next day, Karoline found herself at another community gathering. As she walked through the crowd, shaking hands and speaking with constituents, she spotted Emma and her mother standing off to the side. Emma's face lit up the moment their eyes met, and she quickly excused herself from her mom to run over to Karoline. Hi. Emma's voice was full of excitement, and her smile was as bright as the autumn sun. I wanted to show you something. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. Karoline bent down, curious, as Emma handed it to her. It was a drawing, colored in shades of blue and green, with a delicate necklace at the center. It's my version of your necklace, Emma said, her voice proud. I wanted you to have it. It's just like yours, so I can remember what you told me. Karoline's heart melted. The drawing was simple yet beautiful, with the necklace front and center glowing with vibrant colors. Emma had taken her words to heart, and now she had woven those words into something tangible. Thank you, Emma, Karoline said softly, her voice thick with emotion. This means so much to me. I'll keep it always, and whenever I wear my necklace, I'll think of you. Emma smiled, her eyes sparkling. I'm going to wear my necklace too, she said, holding it up proudly. It's for when I need to be brave like you. As the moment lingered, Karoline felt a deep sense of pride and joy. It wasn't about the politics, the policies, or the accolades. It was about these quiet, simple exchanges, the ones that changed lives, sometimes without either person even realizing it. Later, as Karoline drove home that evening, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had always believed that there was power in the words we share and the stories we tell, but now she understood it more deeply than ever before. The stories we pass on, through family, through moments with strangers, through the connections we form, they don't just live on in our memories. They live on in the people we touch who carry them forward into the world. Karoline thought about how, in some ways, she was the sum of all those who had come before her, her grandmother, her mother, the mentors who had shaped her, and the countless individuals she had met along the way. And she realized that in each encounter, she had the opportunity to do the same for others. She thought about Emma, about how the young girl had learned to embrace her strength, to see herself as capable and brave.